Hello, everybody. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on where you're signing in from on this lovely Friday. As always, we'll give it a couple of minutes before we kick off. We'll let people filter in to the live stream. Let us know in the chat in YouTube where you're signing in from, what you've been up for today, and we'll take it from there once people jump in. We have some good content lined up today, exploring a recent web application build. We're actually currently trying to work out what the best name for this tech stack is, because WWX is a bit of a mouthful. It's not the easiest one to say. So if anyone has any suggestions along the lines of that, I'm more than open to hearing them. W is actually the worst letter for an acronym because it takes longer to say than what it actually stands for. So World Wide Web is a lot easier to say than www dot, but that's the English language for you. Plenty of quirks. We'll give it one more minute before we get started. I'm signing in from Galway, west of Ireland. And Craig, you're based in New York?
New York City. That's right.
Lovely, lovely. How's the weather?
Been okay. It's been okay. It's still on the warm side for the fall, so we'll take it.
Nice, nice. All right, we'll kick off. Craig, I'll let you introduce yourself and Broadway Plus.
Sounds good. Thanks, Rory. I'm Craig Trachtenberg, Director of Operations at Broadway Plus. Broadway Plus is a Broadway experience company. And what that means for us is, we sell tickets to Broadway shows, whether that's for large groups, which we specialize in, or small, more private VIP groups. What really makes us unique is we kind of go beyond just the tickets, and we provide some really awesome add-on experiences. And that means everything from meet and greets, or coachings with a Broadway artist. We do dinners with artists, private concerts. We do educational workshops where an artist might teach a dance class to a school group. And we do corporate events. And something that we'll probably chat a lot about today, as far as our website goes, we also have a virtual platform so that anyone can connect with one-on-one with a Broadway artist through our website for a private meet and greet, coaching, Q&A, vocal lesson, et cetera, et cetera. So we really span the gamut of different ways to connect with Broadway.
Great introduction, and great business too. Just a good example of taking a big industry and finding ways to enhance it and make the experience better. So with that, we'll jump right in. So I think it's probably about a year, give or take, since your team originally reached out and we chatted about rebuilding the website or web application, we'll call it. And originally it was over on a WordPress website, and was obviously, working fine, doing its job, helping grow the business, but running into some hurdles along being able to maintain it, being able to scale it. I think there was, in the region of 100 different forms that had to be managed and updated and linked throughout the site. And I'm always careful not to knock WordPress because it is a great tool. I spent the first 5 years of my career working with WordPress, learned a lot of what I know about WordPress, and its main strength is really there's just so many plugins. You can install it, you can throw on a couple of plugins, and all of a sudden you have booking forms, you have booking events with artists. But that does make it a little tricky to scale, which I guess is why the Broadway team reached out to us in the first instance. And as most of the people watching will know, Finsweet specializes in Webflow and started off just building what we'll call brochure sites where there wasn't really any advanced functionality. And we've now grown to the point of being able to build more bespoke web applications. So we'll go through the tech stack, how it works, how it's put together, but we'll actually start off with the design. Most of the time for the projects that we do, the customer or client has a good idea of what they want the site to look like. And it's typically our designers that put together a design in Figma so that our Webflow developers can build it out. In this instance, the Broadway Plus team actually came to us with a fully designed Figma file. And I can't speak for the wider Finsweet team, but at least for projects that I've worked on, this is the best Figma file that I've come across. Not only does it look super good, but it comes with a lot of things that people don't often think about. So if we take this section here where you can click through it and you can tab through it, generally when someone comes to us with this, we have to say, hey, you know, you have to have a think about what content is going to appear when you click into these. But the Broadway Plus team already thought of that. Any of these sections where there's variability in the content or interactivity was already taken care of. There's even the mobile design, again, not something that we see a lot when people come to us with an existing Figma file. So that was really cool to see. And yeah, it's quite the big difference. It's the same logo, same branding, but just brighter, clearer, bolder, does a really good job of explaining what the company does. So we send this over to our Webflow developer. They get building over. Again, most of the viewers will be familiar with Client First, which is our system for naming classes, essentially, in Webflow, giving everything a name. And part of the reason that's important is this is the system that all of the developers at Finsweet uses. So it's very good for redundancy. If a developer becomes ill or unwell or is taking time off, or if they win the lotto and they move to an island in the Caribbean and someone else needs to take over, any of our developers can jump in and within a couple of minutes they'll be familiar with how the site is built. Another important part of Client First is the style guide, where all the different elements that are in the project live in here and they are styled in here. So if Broadway Plus did a update on their branding, a change to the colors, anything like that, all our Webflow developer would have to do is come in here and just change that in the style guidelines, and it's automatically going to update throughout the site. So again, compared to WordPress, very, very easy to maintain it, to build upon it. And yeah, makes everyone's lives easier. So over to the web app side of things, we'll go over to the live site and take a look at what's here. So the first thing is requesting tickets, big part of the company. And what we've done is built out a pretty robust ticketing flow using Webflow, Wized, and Xano, where a user can come along. They can either pick their own shows or they can get help from an expert, and they can look through a list of shows, add the ones that they are looking for in here. They can enter their preferred dates, preferred time, ticket quantity, and they can move through this very easily. It saves their position and also what they filled out. So if I reload the page or if I go back, it's going to leave off, or it's going to pick up exactly where I left off. And when they get to the end, it's going to submit to a database in Xano. It's going to do some other things like send the request across to Salesforce, which is where you come in, Craig, where, you know, it's piped to the correct person in the company so that they're able to reach out, make contact with them. The way we go about building these looks a little different if you're not used to it in Webflow, where if you look at the page in Webflow, all of the different elements or all of the different sections on that form just appear here. The different error messages appear here, all the different sections appear here. And essentially what we do is we go into each of these and we tag them inside of Webflow. So that just looks like a custom attribute. Always starts with Wized. That allows it to get picked up inside of Wized so that we can work with it. And they just have names that make sense. So this is step 4. It's group tickets, step 4 form. If I was to go through each one of those, it's each going to have an attribute. Then over in Wized, if we navigate over to that page and we turn on the X-ray, we can see all of the different elements that are on the page and we can interact with them. So if we look at this number, for example, we basically have some code that is changing the weight or the styling of that depending on which step that they're on. So if it's on step 1, it's going to appear with the number with a gold background. As they move along, the number is hidden, the tick is shown, and all of that logic is just set up inside of Wized and makes it really easy to build out these kind of multi-step forms. We can create variables in Wized that will track what step the user's on. So if we look for form step, that's just on 1. No, didn't want to put that in there. And that's just going to increment each time the user clicks the next button. And yeah, that's pretty much all there is to that one. That's definitely on the simpler side of things that are in this web application. Where it gets more complicated, as Craig mentioned earlier, is the artists. So all of the artists that Broadway Plus work with can get invited to the platform, and they go through a onboarding form where they fill out a whole load of information. They can select the shows that they've been a part of. They can enter their name, their contact information, and they also get to set the period that they are available for bookings. So if we click in to one of these artists, firstly, all of this information is populated by the artist. So very little work for Craig and his team to do. The artist goes through it. The Broadway Plus team can check through it, make updates as required, and approve it. And once it's approved, it gets sent over to the Webflow CMS where all of these live. And customers can come along. They can book a corporate experience, an educational experience, or a one-on-one virtual experience. So again, the artist gets to set the price that they're charging. There's a range of different experiences that they can get offered. The 2 that this artist has picked are acting through song and audition coaching. Different slots, different time durations rather, available 30 minutes, 60 minutes, or 90 minutes. And again, the artist can choose which one of those they're offering. And the customer then gets presented with a calendar that has the artist's availability. So the artist can go through. In this case, they've set, Monday through Friday each week, and they can set the different times that they're available. The other handy integration here is Xano can work with pretty much any service that has API endpoints. So one of those would be Google Calendar. When the artist is going through their onboarding, they can link their Google Calendar. And let's say for this artist, they've said 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. If they link their Google Calendar and, they have a separate event in their own lives that's there from 3 to 4 p.m., it'll automatically block that off. I suppose this isn't just about saving time and effort for the Broadway Plus team, but also the artists, so that they don't have to be thinking about coming in here every single time they have a new event on and trying to block off the time. They can just link their Google Calendar. Every time a customer comes on to take a look at their calendar, it checks what periods they're free, what periods they're busy. Anything that's busy gets blocked off. So if we pick one of these, it's going to give us a little card down the bottom telling us the date and time. And as we go through to the checkout, if I had been logged in, it'll pre-fill all this information automatically. I'll just pop mine in. We can add in any additional information. Sometimes customers will say that they want to cover a particular topic or ask certain questions. And then through to payment. So vast majority of the applications that we build here at Finsweet use Stripe. And I'm honestly not sure how people went about handling payments before Stripe was a thing, because it really does make this a breeze. The ability to pay with card, to save your previous card payments, to do a direct bank payment, to pay with Google Pay, and also with Stripe Connect handling the payouts to artists so that that process is automated. Once a customer pays and the event happens and finishes, the artist automatically get pays out. And that's all a breeze to do with Stripe and Stripe Connect. So I won't go any further. I don't want to actually put a booking through here, but we'll take a quick look at how this is built on the back end. So for anyone that's done a bit with Wized and Xano, you might be familiar with this already. If not, Xano is a BaaS is the fancy term. So similar to how you have SaaS, software as a service, Xano is a backend as a service. And the three main things it gives us are databases, API endpoints, and tasks. So databases are just standard SQL database tables. We've quite a lot in here. We have one for taking care of storing the information when an artist collects their calendar. We have one just for storing the different show credits that artists have, information related to the accessibility of venues that shows are on in, availability of artists, storing, the days they're available, the start and end times they're available. Quite a bit of stuff in here. And that's mainly what powers this and turns it into a web application, is that when customers create an account, they go in here, all the artist onboarding information is stored in here. Everything to do with Stripe payments, the Zoom links that are used for different bookings are all stored in here. API endpoints then are essentially how we get data in and out of the system. So if we go into, for example, group tickets and go into this post request, if we quickly go back over, or I'll actually do it inside of Wized. If we go over to group tickets here, we have a request in Wized for submitting group tickets. So when a user gets to the end of this, the next button changes to a submit button. And what Wized lets us do is it gives us a visual interface for building out this request. So that's our endpoint in there that matches up with what's in Xano. And when this request runs, it's going to send over the inquiry type and all of the information that the users populated into the fields. Everything from their email, their preferred dates, their ticket quantity. That's the request. The event then is going to trigger this when the form is submitted, and it's going to send all that information off to Xano. So Webflow is where we build out the front end. We're creating what the user is going to see, what the different elements on the page are. Wized is where we're saying what happens with that information. What happens when a user clicks the next button? Where are we sending the data to? What fields are we going through to gather that data? And then all of that comes in to Xano. So for the API endpoints, we essentially just have three things that they do. We define the inputs that are going to come in to the endpoint. So again, that's things like their email, their seating selection, their preferred dates of time. We can set if what the type of data is. Is it an email? Is it an integer? Is it a text string? Is it an object? All of that. The function stack then is where all the fun stuff happens. So this lets us create variables. It lets us create conditional statements, if else statements. It lets us run for loops. It lets us get records, add records. And again, all visual. The nice thing about this tech stack is there's a little bit of code involved, especially once you start to go into Wized. Again, sign of the times, nothing here that AI can't help you with a bit of prompting. It's very good at dealing with Wiz because 95% of the complexity, the code you might have to write in a traditional web application is abstracted away. And honestly, most of what you end up writing in Wiz in terms of JavaScript is really just if-else statements. Um, so that's Wiz. And again, very similar on Xano. Xano probably has even less code requirements than Wiz. If we click into this function for adding a record, it's going to know what the records are for the database table we've selected, which is group ticket inquiries. We can actually go over and take a look at that real quick. Dum-diddy-dum-diddy-dum. So that would be group ticket inquiries. And actually, I won't go into that because that might contain sensitive user info. So we'll stick over here. Essentially, each of these maps up to a column that we create in the database. So there's an email column, there's a user's ID column, there's a group tickets column, preferred dates. And basically all we do is we go into these and we get a list of inputs that we defined at the start, and we can just map each of those to the columns. So again, the user goes through the form on the front end, they fill out their information, that all gets piped into here. Why there's more than just add record is we basically have some complexity around sending the information over to Salesforce. We have 4 different forms and we have one endpoint for handling all of those forms. So these conditional statements are mostly just saying what information we're going to be sending over to Salesforce. And that all happens over in, where's my little, down here. We have API requests that go out to Salesforce. So again, really easy to create these external API calls. This application does calls out to Salesforce, Stripe, Xano, Google Calendar. And yeah, really easy to do. What method are we using for it? What parameters are we sending through? And off it goes out into the big bad Ethernet. So we've a bunch of different API groups in here. We have ones for contact forms. We have ones for handling Google authentication when the user is linking their Google Calendar. The other main thing that Xano gives us is tasks. So the main one we have in here is we have a system for sending out email reminders, 24-hour reminders and 2-hour reminders. So for the 24-hour reminder, as an example, we are querying all of the events and we're then setting some queries here. We only want to get events where the start time is less than 24 hours away. Each time we send the email reminder to the artist and to the customer, we mark that in a Boolean in a true or false column. So we're also checking that we're only sending emails to events where that Boolean is false, so that we're not emailing them more than once. We'll query all of those, and then again, we're just looping through them. We're gathering some information on the user's name, the user's email, and we're using SendGrid for handling the emails here. SendGrid is really good. It's really robust for sending transactional emails. Transactional emails are distinct from marketing emails in that they're emails that are sent whenever the user takes a particular action on the site. So in this case, we're sending them through to the booking user or the customer as well as the artist. So that's a quick fire overview for people watching of how it's built, what the tech stack is built on, how we went around, how we went about doing things like letting artists create times that they're available, events that they can be booked for, and letting customers go through and book them. So back to you, Craig. How have you found using this system so far?
Yeah, it's been overall really good for us. I think one of the things, just speaking about the the artist calendars and that whole side of it, is that it's really created a self-serve kind of platform for both our artists and the customer who might be booking them, which is a huge improvement over, I think, our situation on WordPress, especially if, say, you know, a customer makes a booking with an artist, but say they then need to change the date, something, conflict came up on their calendar, they have the ability to hit a reschedule button, brings up, brings you back to that artist's calendar to book another time. And then through SendGrid, that Rory was just mentioning, there will be email alerts that, hey, your booking changed to this new date, so on and so forth. And that ability for the customer and the artist to kind of self-serve is huge, because um, before this on WordPress, we really had to do all of the customer service, should a date have to change, or should any kind of conflict come up, for either party. So that's been awesome for us. And on the Xano side of things, it's probably my personal favorite of this whole tech stack. I find it really, really easy to work with. I also kind of come from a data and CRM background, so it's just the ability to have a really clean interface for going into the back end, validating what might be coming in, updating information about the shows that we have posted on our site, um, is is really been great to work with. So yeah, that's what's top of mind for me.
Had you ever used anything similar to Xano prior to coming across it?
No, not exactly. I think, my prior experience with any kind of website management, it was all kind of living within the CMS side. There wasn't like an external database, to be able to keep, as up to date and that sort of source of truth. So no, this was new. This was new for me.
Okay, good to know. It's similar for me actually. I'd never used anything uh, like it beforehand, and it's actually what got me into web application development as a career, because I'd always loved the idea of building these web applications. Um, and I did some courses on code, and managed to build out a couple of kind of custom coded, more hands-on coding projects. But I just found it really hard to stick to. I loved planning it out. I loved creating the database tables. I loved creating the API endpoints. But when it came down to actually spending 6 hours just looking at hundreds or thousands of lines of codes, it was a struggle. So yeah, the day I found it, I was I realized I'd found something pretty special. Speaking of the self serve, we'll get the screen share back up here in a minute, and we'll actually log into a user account. So I'll pull that up here. Okay, screen share is ready to go. And I can't log in because we have two separate sites. We have our live site with the live user information, and we have our testing site for testing and for demos like this. So if I log in as a customer, there we go. There's three different dashboards that are built out on the web application. We have the customer dashboard here, the artist dashboard, and also the administrator dashboard, which is an important one because while it is possible to manage all of the data from Xano, it's not really meant for that. It doesn't have any validation in place or safeguards in place. So building those out, even for the administrators on the front end, is pretty good. What the customers get is they get a dashboard here that they can mainly just use for viewing their upcoming and past experiences. So I've created just 2 dummy ones here. They don't have an artist name since they're just dummy events, but were this a live customer account, they can click in here very easily and they can view information around the event name, the start date, the end time, any additional information that they've added in. There's a link to join the Zoom meeting right away. There's a link to join to add to calendar. And while we were building this, I know we did quite a lot of work around the logic for when users can reschedule. So for the customers, they can reschedule up to 72 hours in advance. Anything inside of that, it's not going to let them. I think artists have a slightly more forgiving time period there, but where this greater than 72 hours, as you mentioned earlier, very easy to just hit the reschedule button that will pop up here. It's going to pull in the artist's availability again, and it's going to send emails to all parties involved. So yeah, nice amount of self-service capabilities for the admins, the artists, and the customers. And yeah, that's really it for all I have to go through. It was a super fun project to work on. Everything to do with Stripe was a lot of fun to set up. Definitely the trickiest thing on our end was just the time zones, because you have artists in different time zones, you have customers in different time zones, and yeah, we'd be getting confused getting the reminder emails, wondering why the date was in the past, or 3 hours ahead further than it should have been. Xano, to be fair, does actually have pretty good tools for working with time zones. We were just we were getting a bit confused by it at the beginning, but we have a handle on it now and know how to work with it going forward. So I'll open it up to questions from the audience. I see one comment around WWS series. I think that was probably meant to be WWX, but yes, we're working on the latest rounds of tutorials for that, and we're also going to be launching a website around the WWX tech stack. So similar to if you're familiar with JavaScript, all of these different JavaScript frameworks have, or all of the different tech stacks that combine the frameworks have their own website. So there's one of those for WWX in the pipeline. It'll have resources, clonables and templates, video tutorials, and also a list of agencies working with the tech stack. So for anyone that's watching this at the minute or watches it post live stream, if you are an agency or freelancer that is working with this tech stack, definitely reach out. We'll probably be looking for agencies to have at least one live project. Give us a bit of a demo, and if it's a good project, you'll be able to get listed on the WWX agency list. And we'll give it another minute in case there's any other questions. We've shared the link to Broadway Plus's website. If you're a Broadway fan, definitely check it out. There's some great stuff on there. There is, by my count, nearly 1,000 artists listed on the site. So quite a lot. A couple I recognize. And yeah, also just a good site to look at from a design perspective, from a front end perspective of how the classes are put together in Webflow. And it looks like there was just that one comment or question. Again, this will be up on YouTube afterwards, and I get notified of any comments that get left there. So if you do have any questions about any of the more technical aspects of this, or things like we have different staging environments, different branches in Xano, different data sources that are accessed depending on if we're on the live site or the staging site, anything to do with any of that, drop a comment and I'll be more than happy to answer. So we'll wrap it up there. Thank you to the live stream production team for keeping this on the rails. Thank you, Craig, for taking the time to come on here and chat about the business and the web application. And hope everyone has a great weekend. So long, folks.
Bye.